Hello everyone, back to you into today's first video, doing JMA Friday for today's first video. As always on a Friday, we're having a detailed look at the weather for the next month. This takes us more or less towards the latter stages of May, the final month of the spring. Later on today, we're going to do the 7th and final update for the May Day Bank Holiday weekend. Been quite a journey with these updates for the May Day Bank Holiday weekend. A lot of chopping and changing, but I think we just about got the detail together now, so that will be with you this evening. So we'll deal with the JMA for the next month first of all, then we'll have a look at the CFSB2 and see what that is showing. Hopefully we'll be able to get some ideas together for this final month of the spring. So starting with the 500 millibar height anomaly flow charts from the pole down, that's the North Pole up there, this is the Northern Hemisphere and the latitudes down here. And the British Isles is just there. So the brighter colours, yellows, oranges, reds, they are extrapolating to high pressure, with the darker colours, blue colours, extrapolating to low pressure. So for the coming week, and this takes us from the 28th of April through to the 5th of May, we've finally got this trough of low pressure down to the south and southwest. We've got a ridge up to the north and to the northeast, with the flow and the jet stream going something like that. Now this is actually placing us in quite a mild, if not fairly warmish, southerly wind. I'm a bit dubious about that actually. Way I think these troughs and ridges are going to line up next week is that I think we'll be bringing in more in a way of easterly winds, which won't be probably as warm as the suggestion there. As we go through to week 2, this takes us from the 5th through to the 12th of May, we find that the area of above average heights goes to our northwest, so it's centering around Iceland, with a trough of low pressure dropping down into Scandinavia and eastern parts of Europe, and that means we're doing something a bit like that. So this one looks cooler, I think, there, as we're going from the 5th to the 12th. That's bringing down a cooler, possibly sort of northeasterly type wind, so a little bit cooler, I think, as we go from the 5th through to the 12th. Still a lot of dry weather though. And then we go through to weeks 3 and 4, which takes us from the 12th through to the 26th of May. And as ever with these week 3 and 4 charts, they go a little bit complicated. We've got a trough down to the southwest of us in the middle part of the Atlantic, also across Greenland. Then not a lot else going on, a bit of a trough over Scandinavia as well. Otherwise, it's pretty much average heights there for the second half of May. I think we need to have a look at the temperature and precipitation anomalies to see what one is actually going for in that second half of May, because you can't really decipher all that much from the heights. So having a look at the temperature and precipitation anomalies next, and these are showing us on the tropical and mid-latitude view. The British Isles is just here in the top right-hand corner of the chart as you're looking at it. For the coming week, we've got the trough in the Atlantic, we've got the ridge up to the northeast. It looked like we're probably bringing in quite warm southerly, southeasterly winds. So the temperature anomaly is actually looking quite significantly milder than average for the week of the 28th of April to the 5th of May on this chart. Now, I think that's a little bit overdone. I'm not sure, but it will be as warm as that is suggesting. It will certainly be milder than we've had over the past few days. But I think with the flow more easterly rather than southeasterly, it is likely to limit the temperature potential a little bit there through that week 1 period. For precipitation in the week ahead, we've got a fair amount of dry weather in the east, but it is looking a bit wetter in the south and in the southwest too. So it does imply that there will be some rain out to west and southwest, trying to push up on those southerly winds. East areas though look pretty dry. We go through to week 2. This takes us from the 5th through to the 12th of May. We've got the above average heights out to the northwest, so I thought probably bring down a little bit more of a northeasterly type influence for that one. Precipitation looks drier than average pretty much across the whole of the country. And temperature anomalies, they are still a little bit on the milder side, but they're certainly lower than week 1. So it does imply that we've got cooling there taking place from the 5th to the 12th. It is turning cooler. I'm not sure that week 1 is going to be all that warm, though. So actually those 2 weeks there, weeks 1 and 2, probably in the end don't come out all that far from average. And then finally for weeks 3 and 4, which is the 12th through to the 26th of May, we got that trough out in the Atlantic. Otherwise, there's not a lot else to go on. Really. However, the model is going wetter in this period, so it looks like, although it doesn't really show up all that well on the 500 millibar heights, it looks like we're probably bringing back the jet stream to some degree and turning things more unsettled there in the second half of May. The temperatures, though, they're holding up okay, so it's coming out, for the second half of May, it's coming out average to milder than average. So a fairly mild month coming up, if the JMA is right, but probably a bit changeable, really. I think, particularly in the second half of May, it does look like it is turning a little bit more unsettled. What about CFS V2? These again, 500 millibar heights, break it down into weekly periods. The first week period takes us from the 27th of April through to the 3rd of May. Behind that, we've got an area of above average heights, high pressure to our north, below average heights to our south and southeast, and also in the Atlantic as well. Probably quite cool with this one, and this looks more like what I would expect to happen actually through the week ahead. It's a complicated jet stream path, but it's doing something like that, and I think overall the wind is probably coming in sort of east-northeasterly. Could be quite chilly there actually in the weekend. I think JMA is overcooking those temperatures for the next week. Week 2, which is the 4th through to the 10th of May, finds we've got a big ridge up to the northeast and also extending down through Central Europe as well, with low pressure out in the middle of the Atlantic. Again, quite a complicated pattern, but I think we're probably doing something perhaps a little bit like that with the jet stream. That one could be a milder week, possibly bringing up more sort of southeasterly, southwesterly or southerly type influences, although that's still a big ridge up to the northeast, the north of the country as well. So that's a little bit indeterminate, really, quite how the temperatures would be doing there. Very complicated looking pattern, but I would suggest overall probably a bit milder compared to the first week. Week 3, which is the 11th through to the 17th of May, trough over Scandinavia, ridge building through southern Europe, and also a ridge out in the northern Atlantic. So I think the main message with that is that it's probably turning more unsettled and probably not all that warm either, probably bringing down fairly coolish air from the north. And then we go through finally to week 4, which takes us from the 18th to 24th of May. And just get highlight going, so the 18th to 24th of May, and we find that we've got below average height spread extending through the UK and much of Western Europe as well. Jet stream will be doing something a bit like that. And we're placed on the cool side of the jet. It looks quite unsettled there through to the second half of May. So I think the JMA and the CFS are actually in more agreement in terms of the more extended part of this, which is the second half of May. It looks quite unsettled compared to the earlier couple of weeks where we've got a bit of a difference, especially in terms of the temperatures. So temperature anomalies with the CFS feature, this is more like what I'd expect for the coming week, looking colder than average, quite significantly cooler than average, not just for UK, but for many parts of Europe as well. And as I say, that's more what I'd expect to happen in the week ahead, with a fairly coolish easterly wind. Now, week 2 does look warmer, actually. So the 4th to the 10th of May, my interpretation was correct. We're bringing up a more southerly influence there. So a milder week from the 4th through to the 10th. The 11th to the 17th is still looking quite mild, but it is cooling down compared to week 2. So actually it's going closer to average. And then week 4, 18th to 24th of May, it looks like we're actually going a bit cooler than average once again. So quite a changeable month coming up, with temperatures up and down like a yo-yo. And look at precipitation, we find that the next week is going to be quite dry, drier than average precipitation anomalies coming up, so cool and dry to start us off. Then week 2 goes wetter than average, so warm and wet wet in week 2 before through to the 10th of May, quite significantly wetter than average as well. Week 3 is also looking a little bit wetter than average. That's quite a strong signal actually for week 3, because at this point normally the model is losing the signal to some degree. So looks like the middle phase of May could be quite unsettled. And then by week 4 we are losing that signal, but we know that the height anomaly suggested a trough across the UK and much of Western Europe. So you would think that would be another unsettled week as well. So overall, it take two models together, and they are differing a little bit in terms of the exact detail, but I think the overall message is probably quite a changeable May coming up, with temperatures a bit up and down, and a fair amount of precipitation too, which will be a change on what's happened recently, of course, because we have had a run of pretty dry month. So maybe May will be our first wetter month for quite a while. In terms of temperatures, I would suggest probably we're coming out close to average here overall. The temperatures do look a bit up and down. I think the JMA is overcooking the temperatures for the next week, much more likely to be along the lines of CFS, which is quite cool with those easterly winds. After that, I think probably go up and down with the temperatures as the CFS is suggesting of the JMA to some degree. So in the end, we might come out with fairly average temperatures and possibly a little bit more precipitation we've had for a while. So maybe average temperatures and wetter will be the way forward for May. But as ever, these long-range ones are highly experimental. They're not to be relied upon. It's just a snapshot of what the model is showing this Friday, but it could all look very different when we look at this again next week. Come back later on for the final instalment of the saga that has been the May Day Bank Holiday weekend updates. Tomorrow, got the weekend forecast. We'll also have a look at ENSO, what's going on in the Equatorial Pacific. Sunday, we're going to have the seasonal model roundup for the summer. So it's all going to be going on over the weekend. Keep checking back for more. That's all for now. Thanks for watching.